Well, thanks for taking a second to join us for this week's Pastoral Update. Pastor Dale here with you. Wanted to talk about a pretty significant vote that we had in our church family meeting just this last Sunday on May 21st. Many of you are probably aware that during our church family meeting, we basically brought to a culmination a discussion that we've had going on for several months, even really years, here at Wedgwood Baptist Church, and it really centered around our deacon ministry. And the elders of our church, after several months and quite a bit of study, felt like it would be good for us in alignment with Scripture to open up our deacon ministry not just to men but also to women here in our church. And so in order for us to change that, because our bylaws stated that our deacon ministry was the men of Wedgwood, this was a bylaws change that would have to take place. And so that requires at least a two-thirds majority vote of our congregation, of our members. And so this last Sunday, after a lot of discussion, a lot of listening sessions, a lot of prayer, we had the opportunity to take that vote. The vote did pass, and so we are now able to adopt this new bylaws that basically opens it up, again, the deacon ministry to both men and to women. So that kind of really begs the question of what's next now that we have made this decision and our church is moving forward with this. Well, as far as the logistics of it, that's kind of the easiest thing to tackle. We don't know yet. That basically, obviously, we're going to be working to implement this, but our elders will be talking about that here very soon at our next elder meeting. We'll be working with the leadership of our deacons to move forward with that as well. And so this vote doesn't change the way our deacons are nominated and approved and vetted here at Wedgwood. All of that will continue to remain the same. And so we'll be getting back to the congregation after the deacons and the elders work together on this with what the next steps look like, when that nomination process will start, all those different kinds of things. So a little patience there, especially as we're coming into the summer months and people are in and out with mission trips and camps and vacations. But by this fall, we should have some better clarity on what the next path and what the next steps look like. But now, kind of the bigger, I think really the more important issue is just the unity of the body. Because although we had two-thirds of our people, at least two-thirds of our people say, yes, we want to move forward with it, that still means that there were other people that necessarily didn't see eye on that and didn't agree with that vote because it wasn't a unanimous decision by our church body. And so that really, I think, tests the idea of unity in our church body. We talked about that on Sunday. We talked about it before we knew what the vote would be. Just there in the life of Israel and there in 2 Samuel chapter 2, we saw really the downside, the ill effects and the harm that can be created when an organization, a church, a community is not unified in its purpose and its understanding. And so obviously that is what's so important. And we talked about that on Sunday, that unity is so vital in the life of a church. And that unity is really tested whenever you try to have community, because it's easy to be unified when you're just around one or two people that you already see eye to eye with. But I think the power of the gospel is demonstrated when you do have people come together that have some differing viewpoints. We agree on the primary elements, which I think is the core of the gospel, which you read about in 1 Corinthians 15, that Jesus Christ, fully God, fully man, came, lived a perfect life, died, rose again. We can be reconciled back to God. We have some secondary kind of things that we tend to divide over. That's really what tends to make up our denominations, views of baptism and church polity and some different things like that. But then when it comes to this issue and other issues, we look at those maybe not so much as a secondary and definitely not a primary issue, but tends to be kind of that third level. It's still important, but this is where you find that Baptist churches, some have this style and policy that we do here at Wedgwood, others do not. And so this is really going to be for us, I think, as a church congregation, to look to come together, to be unified, as I said in our family meeting, to be able to move forward into what God has for us, which is to make disciples, just like what our mission statement talks about, that we exist to glorify Christ by making disciples. And that's what we want to do. We want to help grow and the faith of the people here at Wedgwood, and then we want to be able to take this good news out into the streets around us and far beyond, all around the world even, to take the good news of the gospel to other people. And that's what we want to be unified around here in the months as we move forward. So, what does that mean practically? I think it means that we move forward in a spirit of kindness, graciousness, and love, that we don't maybe have sour grapes. We also don't look to say, move on, and it's no big deal, and we're very flippant with the feelings of other people that didn't agree with the way this vote went. And so I think we need to just be able to look to move forward in gentleness and love towards one another, kindness, but at the same time to move forward together. That's really my prayer for Wedgwood, because the last thing I think me or any of our elders or staff or deacons want is for this to be something that divides our body. We are in important times, and we want to be unified as we move forward to declare the good news of the gospel. So that's really my prayer, and I would encourage you to be praying for Wedgwood, to be praying for our church as a whole, that God would help us to be unified, just like you see there in Acts chapter 2, so that we can better have favor in our community, and so that God can add to our number of those who are being saved and being transformed by the good news of the gospel. So that's my prayer. That's what I'll be praying in the weeks ahead. I'm going to invite you to join with me in praying that as well. Also would invite you to this Wednesday night, last Wednesday night before of our normal kind of age-graded ministries, before the summer kicks in. We'll continue, even though it's Memorial Day weekend, we still will have church. So let me encourage you to join us. We'll continue our series through 2 Samuel. We'll look at 2 Samuel chapter 3. We'll have our missional communities following afterwards. This will be an awesome opportunity to join with others, to worship God, to grow in His Word, and in relationship with each other as well. So I look forward to seeing you later on this week. Have a great week. God bless.